Hi there, this is Solitary from Solitary Films, and welcome to part 5 of my favourite 150 films as of July 2020, which is roughly 2-year anniversary of having this channel. And again, these films are not ranked, but I'm just going to go through 15 more titles that make the list. And inspired by SGS films, go and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've set up a Letterboxd account, but I'm in the process of adding the films in my collection to Letterboxd, so that's going to take a while. I'm up to about 1800 films and I've only just finished the letter N, and then I'll go back and put my ratings in, which obviously will change through the passage of time, but it's just another handy way of keeping a record of my film collection, because I do it on a spreadsheet and in a book that I write in on old-fashioned paper and pen. But anyway, that's just an aside. So let's make a start. And the first film is 1974's The Taking of Pelham 123, which is just a wonderful genre film about terrorists or robbers who steal a train and want $1 million in ransom. An inspiration on certainly colour-coded names in Reservoir Dogs. It's one of Walter Matthau's finest performances. Robert Shaw's excellent as the leader of the gang. Martin Balsam. And it's just got a fantastic ending that fortunately the Tony Scott, Denzel Washington, John Travolta remake left alone. There's also a TV movie remake with Vincent D'Onofrio, but this one's the essential one. I also bought it in Kino Lorber for the 40th anniversary edition. It's just so good. Yes, it's got some 70s language, we all know what that means, but it's just wonderfully constructed. And every time you watch it, or at least every time I watch it, you still get carried away by it, and you still are figuring out how they're going to get away with it, being in a subway train. It also shows how a city works, as the mayor tries to get together $1 million, which was also a little bit different in 1974 than it is now, where we've all got $1 million down the back of our couch. Next is Lawrence of Arabia from 1962. Just another excuse to show off that. I did an unboxing video of this some time ago, so I'm not going to bore you with the contents. This is a film that kind of has a bit of special meaning. It's one of my dad's favourite films. It was one of the films that he took his dad to see in the days where a cinema had a wraparound screen. So as you can imagine, Lawrence of Arabia on a wraparound screen must have been quite the viewing experience. His dad expected the film to be like an hour and a half or something, and he was in there for almost 4 hours. It's just a film. Is it perfect? No. Is the first half better than the second half? Certainly. But it's an example of a film they just do not make today. if they did, it would be all CGI, but in those days they did it and then swept the desert smooth again and then did it again. It's weird when you think Albert Finney was originally going to play T. Lawrence, whereas you just can't imagine anybody else apart from Peter O'Toole. It's got a really great script co-written by Robert Bolt that hasn't really aged that well. Sorry, that has aged that well. It hasn't really aged badly. So it's a film that you can get a lot of joy from. If you just like war films, there's something in it for you. If you like kind of character studies, because T. Lawrence was a complex character. You can kind of tell there's latent homosexuality there. There's certainly a line of masochism there. You know, the famous putting a match out with his fingers and the guy asking him what's the trick, and he says the trick is not minding that it hurts. And this thing about he might have enjoyed killing, which obviously Jack Hawkins poo-poos and goes nonsense. So there's kind of nice little subtexts that for a modern audience there's still some relevance there. It's one of Spielberg's favourite films. I'm actually surprised he hasn't remade it with Matt Damon as T. Lawrence or something. Obviously with CGI. It's just a film that, despite its flaws, is just epic in every single sense. And again, it's a film that just isn't made anymore. And it's pretty spectacular. It's got a great score by Maurice Jarre. Yeah, it's just epic in every sense of the word. Next is Blade Runner by Ridley Scott. In my opinion, his best film. Granted, it took him about 7 goes to actually get it as close to perfection as he possibly can. Because I had the theatrical release, and then you had director's cut in 1991, and then the final cut in 2007. This edition also has Dangerous Days, the making of Blade Runner, which is excellent. I also have a 5-disc DVD set, and which has the final cut in DVD and Dangerous Days, but it has 3 complete archival versions: the 1982 US theatrical cut, the 1982 international theatrical cut, and the 1991 director's cut. And it also has a work print with alternate music, footage and voiceover. Harrison Ford hated the film. It's one of his best performances, but he absolutely hated it. Rutger Hauer, who in the film, which is set in 2019, dies in 2019, and in reality Rutger Hauer sadly died in 2019. Go figure. It's one of the best films about death. There's quite a lot of films about life. Blade Runner is about death. Moving on to another cheery film. This is Kazuhara's The Emperor's Naked Army Marches On, which I would compare to The Act of Killing as far as a documentary that when you watch it, you do find yourself going, why am I watching this? Should I be watching this? Should the filmmaker be doing something about this? It's hard to describe this film, so I would just go out and buy it and watch it if you haven't seen it before. Daisuke Beppu mentioned it, and I bought the DVD, which I never got around to watching, but then when Second Run released the Blu-ray, I obviously bought it and watched it quite quickly. It's an amazing film. It's about a World War II veteran who calls out the Emperor for what the Japanese troops did to each other during World War II. It's really strange. Again, very much like the act of killing, you will find yourself going, why am I watching this? What's the filmmaker doing? It's an extraordinary film. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you're in for a, I wouldn't necessarily say treat, but you're in for an experience anyway. Next on the list, shock horror. It's another John Sayles film. It's Matewan this time. Criterion Spine 999, which I was so happy that Criterion released a John Sayles film. Hopefully it won't be the last. If I keep banging on about it, then maybe they'll release another one. This is one of the best American films of the 80s. It's about mining disputes in West Virginia in 1920. Yep, Sayles knows how to have a wonderfully enjoyable synopsis. Beautifully shot by Axel Wexler. A wonderful cast: Chris Cooper in his first film role, James Earl Jones, Mary McDonnell, Will Oldham as the preacher boy. Music by Mason Daring, as quite a lot of Sayles films are. I think just about all of them. And David Strathairn. Beautiful photography. An important story that's still relevant. It's just a phenomenal piece of work. For the budget, it looks more than $1 million. And Criterion have done a really nice job on the extras. There's two kind of documentaries about Sayles' influence in West Virginia filmmaking as well. Because Sayles, whenever he does films, he always employs local people. And he kind of put West Virginia on the map as far as people actually making films and starting a film industry almost. Next, if you ever want to introduce people to art house cinema and you're feeling in a little bit of a devilish mood, you can make them watch Last Year Marienbad or Last Year at Marienbad. This is the Studio Canal Blu-ray, and this is the Criterion DVD, if you can just see that embossing. Spine number 478. I remember the first time I saw this film, it literally kept me up at night. Sorry, I was going playing havoc with the focus. That's embossing for you. It's a film that is open to interpretation. It's essentially just three characters: a man, a woman, and the woman's perhaps husband. And the man is convincing the woman that a year ago they met and she said, give me a year and I'll leave my husband, and the year is up. But she denies ever having said it or even known the guy. It works on so many levels. Yes, there's an annoying score, but I just love the fact it could be about anything. It could be a satire on the middle classes who just go to these huge palatial country homes to stand about and have empty conversations with each other. It could possibly be the afterlife. It could be limbo. It could be a science fiction film. It could be set in space. And it has one of the best edited films I've ever seen, because there's literally characters who'll be sitting in a room and they'll turn their head and they'll be in a different room. The editing is just stunning. Again, the score is a little bit grating at times. It's like huge organs. But but that's merely a problem of elephantitis. It's just a wonderful film. It looks beautiful. It's one of Resnay's finest works, but it does straddle that line of art house or complete arse. And if you asked 100 people what they thought of it, you would probably have 50 people that absolutely hated it and 50 people that liked it. But isn't that what cinema's about? Next is a relatively recent film. It's a film from the 21st century. I know there's not that many in this list, but there's a few. It's Kimchi Winds' Bittersweet Life. I've talked about it a few times in this channel. Just a stunning film. Again, it's something that we've seen many times before. Kind of gangster's lieutenant given the job of looking after the gangster's mall and developing feelings for her. Plus it gives me another excuse to show off the Bud Blue Steelbook, which is quite beautiful as well. It's just an absolutely gorgeous film. Again, part of it could be a dream. There's not really much to say about the plot apart from, it's beautifully acted, beautifully shot. It's right up there with The Quiet Family and I Saw the Devil as Kimchi Winds' finest films. Also Age of Shadows is fantastic as well. If you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat. It is a little violent though. Next on the list, slightly different. Dreyer's Vampir from 1932. This is a Criterion Blu-ray set, spine number 437, and you get a book with it as well. This is just in case you've never seen the inside of a book before, just thought I'd show you the inside of the book before. They put words in it. It is an absolutely beautiful film with images. I mean, it is essentially like a dream. It's shot like a dream. It has dream logic. You can see it's playing influence on David Lynch. It's only 73 minutes, but it contains more in 73 minutes than a lot of filmmakers have in their entire catalogue of work. Yeah, it's just, again, not much to say. It's almost like a science fiction film / dream / horror. Next, something a little bit different. I'm cheating again, but it's the Naked Gun trilogy. Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear, and Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult. These are extended films from the complete series of Police Squad. Let's be honest, the world got a lot worse after Leslie Nielsen died, and I don't think that's any coincidence. It's weird seeing him in these films because he's just so good at being deadpan, and then you go back and watch his serious films. It's kind of strange watching Forbidden Planet. It's like, that's Leslie Nielsen. Yeah, whenever you're down, or whenever I'm down, which tends to be quite a bit, you can just pop in a Naked Gun film. For what they are, I mean, people think it's easy to do kind of spoofs or that kind of 3 gags a minute, but it's really quite difficult to do it well. There's countless films I could mention that are just dreadful, Leslie Nielsen's been in a few of them. But the Naked Gun films, yes, you could argue they kind of go down in quality a bit, but I'm cheating and counting them as a whole, the same way I cheated with Decalogue and the Three Colours trilogy, and I may be cheating in the future as well. They just put a smile on my face. Again, most of it isn't the broad slapstick stuff, it's actually the little one-liners that kind of get past you the first time, because you're laughing at other things. Yeah. People might question why it's on the list, but this is a favourite list. It's not the greatest list of films. It's my favourite films, and there's a time where we all need a bit of Leslie Nielsen in our lives. Moving on, we have Claude Chabrol's Le Boucher, which again, I am doing a Chabrol season, even though it's taken me a while, but I will get around to them. I think I'm on episode 17. And Le Boucher is one of my favourites. Again, no Blu-ray release for quite a lot of Chabrol films. This stars Stéphane Audran as a country school teacher who kind of begins a relationship with the local butcher, who's a war veteran, and people start dying, are found in the woods. Murdered. It's just a beautiful little film. As with quite a few Chabrol films, it's about rural communities. There's a great sense of dread during the film. Audran, who appeared in lots of Chabrol films and was married to him, is just spectacular. It's just a wonderful little film, and it needs a bit more attention, like quite a lot of Chabrol films. Moving on, this is actually going to be a shorter video, which you'll all be glad to hear. Harakiri, by Masaki Kobayashi, starring Tetsuya Nakadai. I really need to watch this again. It's been a wee while, but it is quite a stunning film. The Eureka print on Blu-ray is quite beautiful. Stunning black and white cinematography. It's a film that questions the kind of samurai need for ritual and our own kind of need for ritual, and the kind of stupidity and pomposity of taking that idea of rules to the nth degree. So it is a satirical film, and it is just beautiful. Yeah, I can't really say that much more about it because it's just wonderful. Next is Touch of Evil, because he was some kind of a man. Again, I've said before, you could make the argument that Orson Welles started film noir with Citizen Kane, which he probably didn't, to be fair. But he may have ended film noir with Touch of Evil in 1958, because this is a dark film. This is another film that had different versions and was cut about, as most Orson Welles films were. I mean, this one has 3 different versions on the Eureka Master of the Cinema release. It's got a 96-minute cut, a 109-minute cut, and a 111-minute cut. Obviously, it's famous for the opening shot, but it's got great dialogue. Welles is fantastic as Hank Quinlan, as the cop who gets results one way or another. Charlton Heston is perhaps a little miscast as the Mexican, Marlene Dietrich, the fantastic, is this gypsy who turns up. The studio didn't even really know she was going to be in it. She gets all the best lines at the end. It's got a fantastic ending. As it seems most of the films on this list seem to have. An ending's important. We all get one. Wonderful film. Only 3 left, you'll be glad to know. Next is The Adjuster by Atom Egoyan. This is my favourite Egoyan film from 1991. It's about a loss adjuster, as exciting as that sounds, played by Elias Koteas, who gives a wonderful performance. It's right up there with his performance in Cronenberg's Crash. And he pretty much, when people have a fire at their home and lose their home, he then deals with the people, puts them up in this motel that he uses, and he's a regular, and he has to ask them what everything that they had was worth. So it's a film about possessions, the value we put on possessions, the value we put on ourselves, and he does tend to go a little bit extra with his clients, no matter how old or young or what sex they are. And you have his wife, played by Egoyan's wife, Arsenia Kahajian, which I always butcher her name and I apologise. And she works with the censors, but her mother lives with them as well, and she doesn't speak English. So Arsenia Kajanahan, it'll be a different pronunciation every time, she records the bits that they actually cut out and show to her mother at home to give her an idea of what she does at work. And then you have this couple, played by the woman on the cover, who eagle-eyed viewers who have watched The Adjuster and Sweet Hereafter. She plays the bus driver in The Sweet Hereafter. It's a bit of a change. And Maury Shaken, the wonderful Maury Shaken, who again was in Sweet Hereafter as well. He plays her husband, and they're kind of rich couple, and the wife is a bit of an nymphomaniac, and she gets her husband, Maury Shaken, to reenact or come up with scenarios for her to have sex. So there's a scene with her as a cheerleader and an entire high school football team. There's other things like Maury Shaken dressed as a vagrant and a homeless person on the subway and feeling her up. It's Egoyan and it's an 18. And the two families' lives cross because Shaken kind of sees the loss adjuster's home as a nice place to have a set to film a film with his wife. It gets a little bit strange, but Maury Shaken gives a great performance as a man who's trapped in this relationship. He loves his wife, but he just wants to have like a normal relationship with her. But he just continues to feed her addiction. And then you have Elias Koteas, who needs this. He has his own addiction of being wanted and being needed by his clients who've lost their homes and have lost everything. It's just an absolutely fantastic film. I know I'm not giving it, doing it justice, but you should check it out. It's a bit strange, it's a bit dark, but it's just wonderful. It's a Goyen at his best. Next is a film that again is desperate for a Blu-ray release. It's another Paramount. Maybe that's the thing, because Paramount aren't that great at doing Blu-ray releases. It's another film from 1974. It's the Parallax View with Warren Beatty. It starts off with an assassination in the Seattle Needle, and then it goes to years later, and all of the quite a lot of the witnesses to the shooting have died in strange circumstances. Obviously, it's it's referring to the Kennedy assassination, because it was only made like 12 years later, 11 years later. And then Warren Beatty is this journalist who kind of gets onto the scent that there's strange things going on, and he uncovers this Parallax corporation that perhaps may be training assassins. That's all I'm going to say about the plot if you've never seen it before. Again, it has a wonderful 70s ending. We know what that means. It's one of Warren Beatty's better performances, because he's not playing a pretty boy in it. He has a bit of an arse at times. It's just one of those great 70s kind of political films. They're a bit rough and ready. It's rough around the edges, but it has a point, and it's just a great film, and it really needs a Blu-ray release. It's interesting because the premium collection by HMV in the UK, which a lot of the releases mirror Warner Home Archive Blu-rays in the US, but Paramount have started releasing some Blu-rays like Fatal Attraction and Elvis films. But strangely enough, those Paramount releases are getting a release in the premium collection, so maybe Paramount are actually going to start releasing some of their films to Blu-ray, which would be quite good, because hopefully the Parallax View will be among those films. Because it is strange that it doesn't have a Blu-ray release, because it's Warren Beatty. I mean, if you haven't seen it, it's very good. Great 70s ending. You know what that means. And finally, it's another Billy Wilder film. I'm not sure how many Billy Wilder films are going to be on this list, but there might be a few. It's The Lost Weekend with Ray Milland, which Ray Milland got the Oscar for. It's Eureka Spine number 45. This is a Steelbook edition. It's a great film, one of the better films about alcoholism. Ray Milland is a part-time writer and a full-time alcoholic, and it's just about how his life deteriorates, how he kids himself, how he manipulates the people around him. There's also the famous DT sequence with bats and such flying about. Again, it's not one of Billy Wilder's funny films. It's one of his dark, bleak ones. Yeah, there's not really much to say about it apart from it's absolutely fantastic and I love it. Yeah, not a lot of plot. It's just really well acted by Ray Milland. And again, the script's really good. Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, it's one of Wilder's great ones that nobody really talks about, in my opinion. But I've just talked about it. And you should see it if you haven't seen it before. So that's another 15. And that's the end of episode 5. So we've got 5 more episodes to go, I believe. And that should make 150. Even though I have cheated slightly with trilogies. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of these films. Or what films by the directors you prefer over the ones that I've mentioned. And hopefully you will join me for episode 6 for 15 more of my favourite 150 films. not ranked as of July 2020. Trying to put as many qualifiers on it as I possibly can. So this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films saying thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again.